You know what? I can't play my prank on you this time.
Nope, because we're sharing a microphone. Just like that time we shared... I think it was better transition.
I was gonna say, that time we shared that Havana girl down in old Cuba.
Happy days are here again.
That's right.
Thank God for that fallen relations.
Welcome to the 21st century, Cuba, because it's going to take a while. Well, we have Bryce Wiseman with us today.
Hello, hello.
Now, we wouldn't be a movie podcast worth our weight in gold or icebergs if we didn't devote an entire episode to the biggest movie of all time.
And everyone knows that the biggest movie of all time is James Cameron's Titanic.
Yes.
That's undisputed, right?
I don't think I've ever heard anyone to dispute that.
Now,
wouldn't dare.
I mean, just because like Avatar made more money does not mean it's still it took over Titanic's title.
Avatar, it grossed pretty well in the box office. We'll just say that. It grossed pretty well. But did it get released on 3 VHS tapes? I don't think so. Or wait, was Titanic 2?
I think it was just 2.
Titanic was just 2.
Was there an extended
tapes.
cut?
No.
Director's
With
cut?
more of the unsinkable Molly Brown?
Yeah. Oh, classic.
The unsinkable Molly Brown is what I like to call that new show, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Like, that's just what I naturally go to. And I think that's the mark of a true Titanic fan, is it not?
I would agree. Now, the first non-movie only DVD release was a 3-disc set, so perhaps that's what you were thinking.
Okay.
Was there a 3D Laserdisc set?
There was probably like a 12 Laserdisc
Yeah.
set, because you could probably like fit 1 megabyte per disc.
More importantly, was Avatar released on Laserdisc?
No, and I feel like
Therefore, I rest my case.
by the transitive property of Laserdiscs, Titanic is better. You heard it here first, folks.
So Titanic shares a very special place in both Joe and I's heart.
It sure does, because for the 100th anniversary, not of the movie, but of the sinking of the actual Titanic, it was re-released in theaters in the new 3D format, popularized perhaps by Avatar, but that's neither here nor there. And instead of, taking my wife or a date, which would be weird since I have a wife, Dirk and I chose to...
You took a date.
I took a date. I took Dirk.
It was a lovely time to start. We had our popcorn, we had our glasses on that allowed us to see the 3D, and then 3 women sat behind us and just cackled through the entire thing. I remember, one of the most memorable points of this viewing experience was when the scene with the old people spooning as the water comes rushing into their
Yes.
their cabin. And as a child, that image affected me deeply. I was very just distraught by that. And then I was feeling very emotional at the time. I'm not going to say I cried, but I came close. And all this time, while these poor old people were just accepting their doom, these 3 women were just laughing hysterically at it, and I almost turned around and gave them a dirty look, but it would have been lost on them because of my 3D glasses.
That's true.
They're shaded.
Maybe they were just remembering the ridiculous number of times and moments that they had watched the movie when it came out.
See, I would be more inclined to believe that this was the first time they'd ever been to a movie.
They just didn't know.
They just didn't act like this was something that they'd ever done before. But who am I to judge?
Well, didn't one of them a couple of times say, "What's going on?"
Did they have their 3D glasses on? That may have been what. They could have just been very confused.
They're like, why is this movie all blurry?
That could have been.
May they because they know it's a movie and they thought it's a comedy. Of course, it's not true. It's not really. People aren't really dying.
I mean, this is
This is a really dark comedy.
the movie is just as much fun as watching my grandkids go down that inflatable at the birthday party.
I must say, I did enjoy doing that as a kid, because they had the Titanic inflatable when I was a kid, and that was one of my favorite times.
It always seemed a bit macabre to me, but nah.
Well, what can you do? I mean, if there's a buck to be made off the Titanic craze, and believe me.
So are you
there
telling
is.
me that in like 3,000 or what, 2,100 it'll be like a popular thing to have like something like you're sliding down the falling Twin Towers.
Oh.
I would not be surprised if a thing like that happens.
I just hope my great-grandchildren will have the decency not to go down it.
I hope that my great-grandchildren have the decency to enjoy it. And to laugh through a flight, whatever that movie was.
Flight United 93.
Yeah, United 93.
Yes.
Treat it as a comedy.
Like, let's watch that funny movie from 100 years ago about that thing that even though that doesn't really mention the towers at all, but it's a bottleneck episode of In the Plane Only.
Now, Bryce, do you have a Titanic story to maybe
do
warm
have
the heart?
Yes, it'll just warm up those middle school loins. This was in junior high school, as we called it back then. And for a reward I think it was for academic excellence or something, most of the school was we did a service project in the morning. And for doing a service project, I think raking leaves at like a nursing home or something. Then in the afternoon, we got to see a movie. And so the entire junior high school got to vote on which movie do we want to see. 2 choices, Titanic or Man in the Iron Mask. Either way, we get to see Leonardo DiCaprio, which is awesome.
I'm kind of astounded at the selections for a junior high school movie day.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this junior high, we're not kids. I don't know. I don't think I was even really aware of movies or what was probably available other than probably current Disney movie, Pocahontas maybe. So that was announced, and of course everyone voted for Titanic. Although as I'm saying this, I'm thinking I remembered, due to things we'll get into there, my conscience told me, and I think I actually voted for Man in the Iron Mask. Because I knew that I should not be seeing Jack paint her like those French ladies.
Well, it's awfully tawdry. That's for sure. And then that whole scene in the car.
Yes. Well, we'll get to that.
Oh my goodness.
We'll get to that scene in the car. So I don't know if I told my parents about this or if somehow they found out, because obviously small town, everyone's going to find out.
They have spies everywhere.
They're everywhere. So maybe this was even before the voting, which may have been why I voted against Titanic. So news leaked out. One of the leaders of the trip at school, like one of the teachers, like came up to me in class and was like, "Hey, I heard that there might be some issues with this. We can have you step out during those parts if you need to." Which then turned into one of the school board members coming up to me and be like, "That's ridiculous. You shouldn't be asked to do that and embarrass yourself in front of everyone." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm already embarrassed here." So also in the process of all this, my mother calls into the school and complains. And this is when I make the biggest mistake. I mean, I'm already not a cool guy in junior high. I'm still not a cool guy. And I don't know, it's not just because of this either. But for whatever reason, so everyone's freaking out. They're treating us like babies. I'm going to write into the superintendent. We have every right to see Kate Winslet, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we have every right to see Kate Winslet's tits. Like, this is appalling. This is censorship. And for whatever reason, I said, they're like, "Oh, if we find out who called and complained about this, we're gonna blah blah blah." So of course I said, "Yeah, it was my mom." So I immediately became persona non grata at Lincoln Middle School for junior high.
Was this a public or private school?
This was a public school.
Okay. Well, you know what? That sounds a lot
Small
like
town.
the community that I grew up in. Very conservative mentality.
Yeah.
I'm sure my mother would have had a problem with it.
And
as
I'm
well.
also probably fairly sure it wasn't only my mother. In fact, actually, I know people told me that. It's just they had the smarts to keep their mouth shut and not say anything.
Maybe they just wanted to make you feel better.
Yeah.
Like everybody's mom's calling in.
So, the big day arrives. We rake the leaves.
Ooh, the tension of raking those leaves. Like, oh no, as soon as we get this done, you know what we have to do.
Then we went to Taco Bell.
Ooh.
And it took me, and I almost peed my pants because I didn't realize where the bathroom was. It was outside in the vestibule. Probably also because I was just so nervous. Not really an important point in detail there, but so we get to the theater, movie's going along, everyone's loving it, and then, it comes to that scene, and all of a sudden, I don't know. They must have put a piece of cardboard or something in front of it because the sound was still there. I don't know about movie projectors that well. Joey, you probably can tell us what happened. Actually,
You could have put anything that was not opaque in front of the in front of the lens.
given the technology of the cinema, I'm sure that's what it was.
and it would have blocked.
And
the
so,
image.
like, immediately, as soon as it goes over, the entire theater just goes into a huge groan and everyone just shouts, "Bryce!"
Oh no.
And I don't know. I was maybe a bit fearful for my life because, I mean, people just really, really, really wanted to see those beautiful boobies so bad. And then, so that's over, and I'm like, okay, you know, whatever. Well, then they get to the car scene, and for whatever reason, they also blank that out. Like the hand coming down. Apparently, that was too racy, too.
It's too indicative.
I guess my mother
Emphasis
must have
on the
previewed
dick,
it
am I right?
beforehand.
Because obviously the sound has nothing to do with that scene being steamy.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So that's my Titanic story in which I made my life much more difficult for all the rest of my junior high days.
And then in high school, you became homecoming king.
Nope.
Now, have you seen Titanic since then?
Oh, this is maybe even a funnier follow-up. I have actually seen Titanic once since then on VHS with my sister, like maybe just only 3 years ago. And it was just like one of those weird things because like we were alone and then like that scene came. I mean, I don't know. We're both still probably uncomfortable with those things because of our childhood. Like probably among anyone else, but among each other, it's just going to be awkward. And it was just, we were just like, oh, well, here we are sitting together.
So was that the first time you'd seen that scene?
That was the first time ever.
Okay.
And it was just very, I mean, I guess I've seen a lot since then. So it was just a bit of a letdown. Gosh, in junior high,
Waited all this
10
time
years,
for this.
15 years ago, more than 15 years, 20 years ago, we were hard up to find stuff like that. And I really let everyone down. So I apologize to everyone from Lincoln Junior High.
I heard all of your former classmates are listening to this episode.
I'm sure they are, and that's why I offer my sincere and most humble apology. For any of you that want, I'll take you out and we'll watch that movie together if you really want to see.
Oh, that would be really nice.
We should have done that for my high school reunion.
That would have been great.
Bryce Weitzman will be presenting Titanic, a dramatic reenactment
without a cardboard.
Yes.
piece.
Or just those two scenes? just out of context, just, hey guys, come into this room at the venue where we're having this reunion. And
Just like come outside in this tent, and I brought an overhead projector and a piece of cardboard. I'm going to project it onto the cardboard so you can basically see it.
and just play it on loop.
Yeah.
I like to think about the first time I ever became aware of Titanic.
The movie or the ship?
The movie.
Okay.
Because I think the actual ship I learned about in 4th grade, and it was also the time when Titanic was coming out.
Okay.
Because the teachers had a special thing about it. And I remember, this is kind of an aside to the story I'm about to tell. I remember one of the girls got the heart of the ocean. Like she was all about Titanic and she got the heart of the ocean.
Whoa.
And I was like, what? Did you dive down and get it? I didn't actually say that to her. In retrospect, I wish I would have. But the first time I became aware of the movie, I had to go to my grandmother's house. She was babysitting my sister and I. And my parents were going to see it at the Huntington Theater.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I remember asking them how it was, and they were just like, it's really long. They wouldn't go into any detail.
Are you sure they didn't just mean the boat? It was just one long panning shot of the whole boat for 2.5 hours.
And then at the very end, there's an iceberg just off in the distance, so you kind of know what's going to happen.
To be continued.
Yeah. In Titanic 2.
Now, if they made that today, it would be split into 2 parts. Like the 2 VHS tapes would be like movie 1 and movie 2.
Actually, let's be honest, it would probably be a trilogy, because that's what's in fashion these days.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll remake it and split it up into 3 parts.
We can only hope. I mean, a story like that can't be confined to one movie.
Or a television miniseries.
Ooh.
Or there could be a trilogy about the sister ships. The Titanic, the Olympic, and the...
Was it... I always want to say Lusitania.
Yeah, so
and
that's on the
not
tip
right.
of my tongue too, but that's just because
That was a trivia
that's right
question.
now. Was it?
Were you there that night?
I must know.
No, you must not have been. It was the other ship that sank, and I could only think of the
Yeah.
Lusitania, but that was the one that saved the survivors of the Titanic, I believe.
No, the Lusitania sunk a couple years before.
No, Lusitania was later.
Lusitania was later?
Yeah, Lusitania was during World War II.
Well,
or World War One.
How come they didn't learn the lessons from Titanic?
So rude. And you know,
It wasn't
I
a
think-
lesson to learn. It was German U-boats. and actually, they had plenty of boats, lifeboats. It was just that it sank so fast.
Well, I always like to say Lusitania lips sink ships.
You do always say that.
That is engraved on your front door.
on my doorpost, and then I've also written into my will that it shall be written as my epitaph on my headstone.
Loose tank lips sink loose tank ships.
In her Royal Maritime Service.
Royal Mail Service, Dirk.
RMS Titanic, though, was
Royal Mail Service.
I thought it was Royal Maritime Service.
Royal Mail.
Was it a mail ship? Mm-hmm. I thought it was just like a cruise ship.
I mean, yeah, but there's also mail on it. I'm not exactly sure about.
It was the
why
White
this
Star
naming
Line,
is
though.
such, but
We all know it was the White Star Line, which was probably the height of luxury.
Wait, was it RMS or was it
Royal
HMS?
It was. If it was RMS, it's Royal Mail Steamer, actually.
Okay. It might
HMS
be
would be.
Her Majesty's steamer, wouldn't
Wouldn't
it?
it be at His Majesty's though? In
Oh, at that point, it
1912?
would be His Majesty's. Yeah.
Anyway.
Keep forgetting about that dopey old king. Sorry, British people.
But I feel like the sinking of the Titanic is a very American thing. Is that just my thinking about it, or is that actually?
Well, I think we can tie that back to the unsinkable Molly Brown. I think the reason it feels so American is because Molly Brown was like the most American thing on that ship.
I mean,
What about John Astor? Was there some Vanderbilts too, or was that no? That was the Lusitania Vanderbilts. I think the Titanic is everyone's ship. Built in Northern Ireland, went to England.
it really is all of the
ship of the world.
ship, at least of the northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
Of the northern.
I would say the ship of Western Europe and North America.
Yes, the ship of the pre-Great War world.
Yes.
It was just a preface to what was to come in the coming years, the severing of the West.
It was supposed to be a shining example of unsinkable optimism, and then real life struck, and then that's what happened.
So,
On that dark note.
on that dark note, during a showing of Titanic was the first time I ever touched a boob.
Really?
I'll explain. I may want you to cut this out.
No,
we are absolutely not cutting this out.
So I worked at the Huntington Theater, and it was a single screen theater. And at Titanic being a very, very popular movie, played for an incredibly long time. It played throughout all of February and March and into April. And during this time, back at school, we had a half day, which they don't have anymore. So we got out of school like 11:30, and it was like, hey, few friends, let's go watch Titanic. So we got this huge theater, which at night would be like probably half full. I mean, it's like this 500-seat theater would have a lot of people there. And we're like, you know what? Let's go see Titanic. Why not? So here are the people in this theater. It's me, the girl I was dating at the time, and then two of our guy friends. And that was it. That's the entire attendance of the theater. And we're all sitting right next to each other. Now, she enjoyed the movie, and it was after the hand scene, and she took my hand and placed it upon her breast.
Wow.
And I was like, what's this wire? I don't know anything that's going on. Plus, the fact I was on the left, and then it was her, and then it's our two guy friends. So I'm like I'm leaning over, and like they're right there. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
it's not dark enough.
There's the only other people here are right next to us. I don't know what to do in this situation. I stopped, and I just sat there and felt awkward the whole rest of the movie.
So approximately how long was your hand upon the breast?
Seconds.
Enough to detect a wire.
Enough to not know why there was this very sharp wire.
Were you concerned she was a cyborg?
I was just concerned about everything in general.
What are these feelings?
Yeah, it was just needless to say, our relationship did not last, and because the movie played for so long at the theater, she actually came with someone else before it had stopped showing. So all is well.
You know, maybe she was performing like a sort of litmus test called the Titanic breast test, the TBT, if you will. And maybe she thought, okay, well, if I can get my man to hold on to my left breast during Titanic and he won't feel awkward, then that's how I'll know. And maybe she read it in like Cosmo or something, or Teen Vogue.
You know, because I'm sure that you are not the only man who touched his first breast during Titanic.
My story is one of many. I am but a statistic.
But a wonderful statistic nonetheless.
I'd rather touch my first breast during Titanic than see my first breast during Titanic.
Ooh. So let's just talk about Cal. What a dick. I mean, am I right, guys?
And am I right, ladies? I mean, if anyone doesn't know how to treat a woman, it's dopey old Cal.
I like how there's no reason to have it, but when she's telling the story and she's like, he took his life during the stock market crash. There's no reason to add that in there, but it makes you feel good that, oh yeah, Cal.
You know what? That's exactly what it's for. It's vindication. So you can be sitting in your seat and be like, yeah, you got what's coming to you, Cal. Those stocks. No ticker tape parade for you, sonny boy.
If he would have just waited it out for like 10 more years, he would have been fine.
Well, that's Cal. He's not a big picture thinker, you know.
But who knows how different the world would have been if he had lived.
You know, I think if the real Cal had really lived in real life, we probably would be worse off.
I'd like to think so, too. What if Jack would have lived? Have you seen some of the theories about Jack living?
Have you seen the theories that Jack really does live?
And is actively living now? Are these
theories or fanfic?
Well, they're...
Same diff.
I mean, I found them
not quite so well-developed fanfic.
I found one on Tumblr, so it's one and the same.
Okay.
But my the theory that I love the most is that Jack didn't die in the icy Atlantic that night. He actually survived, changed his name to Gatsby.
Whoa!
And that's why Gatsby never goes near the pool. He's afraid of water. And he became a self-made man who's new money, and his heart does go on.
Wow.
I feel like that makes sense if for no other reason than because Leonardo DiCaprio played both characters.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why it works.
I feel like why should you stop there then? Like, why not just connect? I'm thinking of like...
all great works of literature. The movie Titanic, the novel The Great Gatsby. That's it.
He becomes like a short little hairy person.
He was maybe George in Of Mice and Men. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you could probably link all of his movies together.
That's
like
true.
you could trace Jack's bloodline through Leonardo DiCaprio's movies. So maybe Jack's ancestor was the man in the Iron Mask.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we know that Jack turns into Gatsby, Gatsby. And then after that, Gatsby's grandson is the marshal sent to investigate Shutter Island.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shutter Island's grandson is the Wolf of Wall Street. And
don't a lot of these characters die?
Well, die.
That was air quotes there for those.
Yeah,
of you who can't see.
for those of you who aren't in the room,
For
right
all of
now,
you out there in Radioland, that was air quotes. Die.
do we still use Radioland when it's podcast?
Yeah. Well,
Internet land.
I don't know.
All of you out there listening on the ones and zeros.
I feel like Radioland is a place I'd want to go, and Internet Land is a place I'd want to avoid.
Well, there are certain, like, I feel like Internet Land, there would be certain, if this was a geographical location, Internet Land would have, like, maybe the capital city would be really nice, and then there are a couple, like, major cities that you'd want to visit.
The districts.
But then you get into, like, the sticks, if you will, which is essentially
GeoCities?
Yes, GeoCities, Angel Fire, and then the Flat Earth conspiracy theorists.
I actually would think GeoCities and Angel Fire are more like abandoned malls.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, if we go by that, then GeoCities would be an abandoned mall that then got demolished.
Except it's saved somewhere in Pirate Bay land. Yeah. It has a huge file compressed down. It's like an archive.
It's like 40 megabytes and all of it.
Just watch out for the Pirate Bay.
Oh, there's a funny story for you. You want to hear another funny story?
Yes.
Funny Pirate Bay story. I worked in a library at a university library, and I oversaw students. And I was talking with one of them one time about GeoCities, and because they were fascinated by my ancient knowledge of things.
This is a library after all.
And maybe I was also talking about archiving things. I said, oh yeah, you can download a torrent of all of GeoCities, because I'd seen it before on Pirate Bay. So I was like, oh yeah, let me show it to you and prove it. Forgetting that, my Firefox, I have all Flash and ad blocks on. Forgetting about what Pirate Bay looks like if you don't have all of those on. So I bring it up and then turn it around to show to this young female student. And of course, there's all the typical Pirate Bay scantily clad, not clad women dancing around everywhere. Oh, oops. We should just do an episode of my funny library stories, because that makes me think of another one now.
Well, go ahead and tell
Can we
it.
hear another one?
Yeah,
this is just a real short one. One time I came up behind one of my student workers, and he was just watching videos of babes in bikinis, like kissing and like shooting guns.
Kissing and shooting guns, that sounds like Spring Breakers.
Maybe it was. I don't know what it was, but I was like, let's get back to work. Oh, so I was also going to say, we were talking about Radio Land, Internet Land. I feel like at this point, like Internet Land has like taken over the separate city that was Radio Land. So it's now kind of swamped up inside of it. So you could go within Internet Land. There's a corner called Radio Land.
Or maybe Radio Land was subdivided into podcast districts.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And so it's almost like the Warriors, where you affiliate with a certain theme of podcasts.
I was thinking it'd be
Just
more
like GeoCities.
like East and West Berlin, where there's East and West Radio Land. What's cool? Okay, no.
But there also has to be a middle point, because most terrestrial radio now is also...
The separation to East and West Berlin was the separation of AM and FM. Clearly, in this analogy, that's...
Well,
so which is which?
Think,
show your leanings. Which one is communist? AM or FM?
When you
clearly FM, right? AM radio is definitely
AM radio would be communist in that. I would think, because
think so?
Like if you think of FM,
I'm just thinking of talk radio.
West Berlin. Okay. Well, I was thinking more of the actual quality in the broadcast of radio.
Yeah. Okay.
But even so, talk radio. I mean, you're still spewing propaganda. So
that's true.
But I was thinking of the East-West Berlin as terrestrial radio is East Berlin, and podcasting is the free West Berlin.
Yeah.
But it's all relative.
Are we going to tell the radio station you just called them communists?
Well, knowing the station that I work for, they would not be happy being called communists. I will say that.
But as we all know, in theory, it should be okay.
What, communism?
Well, and I think the least communist movie you can imagine is Titanic. I mean, with all those class divisions. I mean, I didn't really know about class divisions until Titanic. That's not true, but I thought I'd tie that in.
You want to put a little Marxist critique on this? The classless society?
Yeah.
Once death comes, doesn't matter.
That's right.
Well, except it kind of does. You can just lock the third,
you can,
class down in the
You
bottom.
can lock them. You can lock the steerage. I mean, did any of the workers actually get out? Like the people that were working in like the shoveling the coal for the steam?
I don't think so.
Well, I could see maybe one or two escaping. You know, those were big, muscly guys. Like, surely they could knock over some pansy first class.
Well, I'm just thinking about how quickly it flooded down there.
That's true.
And
but maybe
that they dropped the dividing thing. So I don't know.
Oh,
I'm starting to talk more of the actual history, not the movie. I don't really know.
Well, in the movie, I'd like to think that some of the coal guys got out, and you know, they went on to live very mediocre middle class lives
in America. I see the Statue of Liberty. It's very tiny. Don't you love his friend who I don't even remember his name? And then he's like a big deal, and then like shows up like one time later.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of the movie. I'd say, okay, here are my, and let's all go around the table and say our top 3 favorite moments of Titanic. I feel like we've come to a point in the night where we can reveal our top 3 moments. I'm gonna go ascending. So,
Okay.
number 3 favorite moment in Titanic is when Jack views a Nickelodeon before boarding the ship. Easily one of my favorite moments.
You're really making me realize I don't really know very much about this movie at all.
Well, guess what we're doing after this? Break out the
Maybe
tapes.
more than just those 2 parts were blanked out.
My second favorite moment is when the unsinkable Molly Brown takes Jack under her wing at the fancy dinner and is just so sassy and unsinkable, even with those hoity-toity rich types.
Oh, yeah.
And then number 1 would definitely have to be when the old lady drops the heart of the ocean into the ocean from whence it came. What a beautiful way to get closure on a love of your life that you'll never see again.
I'm going to say number 3, the hitting of the iceberg. You know it's going to happen, but you kind of forget. And
You just hope it's not going to happen this
you
time.
watch it again. Like when I was a kid, there was this movie that I don't remember what it was called. It was about a boxing kangaroo. And I used to love this movie, but at the end of the movie, which I realize now was they were releasing the kangaroo back into the wild, but I would cry because the kangaroo was leaving. And I would watch it every time, and every time I would cry because I thought it was going to be different. But so all right, so number 3, the actual hitting of the iceberg. Number 2, I'm going to go with when the captain is in the room where the captain steers.
Quarters?
No,
The bridge?
the bridge, and the water floods in.
Oh, yeah.
And number 1, I'm going to go with the old couple spooning in the bed when the waters flood.
That was number 4. It came in pretty close to my number 3 with the Nickelodeon. But I mean, just watching a Nickelodeon is a lot of fun.
Now, when the water floods in the bridge, is there a gunshot off screen after it pans past or not? Am I just imagining that?
I don't remember a gunshot.
Okay.
I
may just remember that from things I've read that some people say that he shot himself and some people say he didn't.
I feel like he could have just waited. It wasn't
Wouldn't have taken that long, yeah. So I'm going to name 3, but in some ways the 3 things I actually remember from the movie. The first 2 are the 2 things I remember loving the most the first time I saw it. The first, number 1 is going to be something I think I remember from the second time. I don't really know the order. So the first 2 are in no real order are number 1, the Irish dancing scene in the steerage. I remember loving that. These probably shows you a lot about my 2 things that I loved in junior high and still love. So Irish dancing music. Number 2 is huge machine engines. I just love that scene of just those huge pistons.
Yeah.
That was just so awesome. I was like, yes, huge machines. I love huge machines so much. These machines are so huge you can go inside of them. Number
Just
1.
really quick, an aside, I feel like Huge Machines is a really great band name.
Yeah.
Just,
I had a blog about huge machines.
Oh, nice. All right.
Huge machines and biblical beasts.
Ooh, nice.
We can talk about that sometime if you want.
Is it and where to find them?
Oh. In the Bible?
Yes.
Numbers 11:2. Number 1, I think, and isn't like at the end or like towards the end, isn't it revealed that like she's on like the mission to like go down and see the boat, to see Titanic or whatever? What's her name? Rose.
Yeah.
Like we don't know until the very end that she's like on like the modern day boat.
No,
like,
That is incorrect. The first like 40 minutes of the movie are
also
in modern
like
day.
that. Okay. Maybe I just forgot about that whole element in general. And so when I saw it for the second time, like 3-5 years ago, I was like, oh, I did not remember this aspect of it at all. So there you go.
Well, thanks, Bryce. You know, we actually have another friend, a good friend, Joe Lasanikia. He's here in the studio with us as well. Tell us about the first time you saw Titanic.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on the show, Dirk and Joey. Movie Munchie Party.
It's the greatest movie podcast.
Yeah, and I actually like the cover. It's very colorful.
Those are the test bars that they use.
Oh. You know what? I was talking to my grandma B about TV, and I was asking her if they had public service announcements, and she was like, "Oh my land, we hardly had anything on the TV." And she said that my uncle Steve would sit and look at the TV at those bars, and just sit and stare at colored bars. And wait and to hope that something would come on, and even then, whatever came on, like that was it. Like it wasn't, you couldn't choose what you wanted to watch. But I can't imagine that. Could you imagine just sitting and staring at those bars
Not really.
for like hours?
Those bars, I mean, they do draw the eye.
Yeah.
So I can see it from that point, but
Is there a meaning behind the color pattern?
probably has something to do with you want to make sure all the colors are represented.
Yeah. It's not in rainbow order. I know that.
It's not Roy G. Biv.
So Titanic. So before we went to see the movie.
Now who is the we in this?
Okay, so it's our other good friend Paco Michelson.
Sure.
And we went to specifically Hook's Redco, which now I think is CVS, right?
Probably.
Yeah. And I got the Neckos.
The Necco
chalky,
wafer.
the delicious chalky wafer where you're not sure of the flavor, except for like the licorice one and the chocolate one. Was that.
And then mostly just taste like chalk.
Yeah, yeah. And I love them. I still will eat them, but Paco most definitely hates them very, very much so. And that was part of our relationship, was that I knew that he hated them. And so I indeed got them for Titanic, knowing it was a long movie. I think maybe even there was like buy two for like 50 cents. So I had stockpiled. But anyway, so like as we were watching the movie, I would just place a Necco upon his knee very gently. Sometimes he wouldn't notice. And then like when he did notice, or if he saw me do it, that when I did it, he would just knock it off. And that was what we did. And I would eat, and then maybe use like a real like bright screen with a lot of white light coming off the screen to detect the color of the Necco.
Okay.
And if it was black, I was like, chucked it. I did not want to eat the licorice one at all. I hate it. I love the chocolate one, but not the licorice one. And the other flavors I'm okay with, but I couldn't tell you what they were. But then, so then I would like just place him on his knee, and this probably happened for like maybe an hour. Like it was a very like slow process. And then as it got more and more, I think it like, instead of intervals of like 15 minutes, like I was putting it on his knee like every minute. And it got to a point where he just finally stood up in a crowded theater and like announced out loud to like the strangers and then to our friends, everyone, that I was the most annoying person in the world, and Kyle is there, seat next to you. And he was like, yes, without dropping a beat. And it was during a quiet part too, so that it was announced to everybody. It was fabulous. Yeah.
Beautiful story.
Thank you. Yeah.
So then he sat there the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and we sat apart.
Okay.
I sat by myself with my Neckos.
Good choice or great choice?
What, him moving?
Well, yeah, sure. Or just having the Neckos to yourself.
Yeah, right. I guess it was a great choice because I got to eat more of that chalk, that chalky flavor.
Shortly after that.
Which is the same company that makes the hearts, right?
Yeah.
And everyone loves those.
That would,
or does everyone hate those?
Well, as for me in my house, I do not like those.
Okay, those are like candy corns for me, like the candy corn and like the pumpkins. I hate nobody eats those.
See,
right?
I like the pumpkins, but not candy corn.
Really?
Yeah.
So you do eat them?
Yeah, I mean, not like a lot.
Yeah. But
Like-
you'll have some during the holidays.
Well, actually, after the holidays when they're like 50 cents.
Yeah.
And I'll get a bag. I'm like, oh, these are the best. And I'll eat like 10 and be like,
Yeah.
it's too many.
Yeah. I think my indulgence with pure sugar is still gummy bears.
Yes.
I mean, like, I'll just eat them and eat them. I would. If
Now-
I had a big pile of them, I wouldn't stop.
Now, another story, including both myself and you
Oh, yeah?
and Paco regarding Titanic, was that a couple months later we made a fake preview for a movie called Targtanic. Would you like
Yes.
to share a little bit about
Yes,
the
Titanic
background?
was a preview that we took advantage of Target, the empty Target parking lot.
Yes, our Target store in town closed, and people were quite upset. In fact, there was a candlelight vigil
Remember.
that one of our English teachers went to.
And you guys all went on the very last day at the very last hour and went to buy an item together, and you all decided upon aluminum foil, if I remember correctly.
I was not a part of that, but I think that's a good
I wasn't either.
good choice.
Yeah, I remember I had practice, and I was very upset to miss it. But there's a sign in my dad's garage that it's a big smiley face, and it says "Say hello."
Ooh, From Target.
From Target, and it was in the stairwell as you walk down from your break room, so that you're reminded to say hello to the customers.
Ah.
Yeah.
So our Target had closed, and we took that real life event and made a Titanic-esque preview. Now, I say preview, it's pretty much you went through the whole movie and lasted about 9 minutes.
Yeah, and
But-
it starts with the old lady being saved as a younger woman, and we just used the front of the Target as like the wreckage.
Yeah.
Like it was no like we were just pretending, or the closed Target was just like an artsy way of putting it, of doing that.
It was sounds like theater of the mind.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts is obviously we do the drawing scene. One of the iconic moments of the movie. We do the drawing scene, and do you recall this drawing?
Yeah, well, let me set it up for you guys so you can visualize it. It's our friend Paco, who you wouldn't want to see like in a dress. But is he in a dress, Joe?
I don't think we went that far with costumes.
I think they took like a choir robe.
We took a choir robe,
like still on the hanger, and he like just kind of like held it by his neck line.
He's like, I want you to draw me wearing this.
He's like, it's beautiful.
And he puts his choir robe not on, but just like sets it on his body.
Yeah.
Like drapes it over his body.
Yeah, and then Ryan Lee proceeds to like break the pencil like 25 times, because doesn't that happen in the movie too? Like he breaks it a few times too many.
Yes.
Yeah, we break it like 20 or 30 times. Yeah.
So we covered the highlights, and we showed this to a crowded theater.
Yeah, you put on some movie fests, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And
that was cool, and that gave us all like opportunities to make our own things and bring them together.
And you know what? If people want to watch Titanic, you can find it on YouTube.
And Titanic is probably not. There's probably no other video on YouTube titled Titanic.
I would be very surprised if there was.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking about Titanic.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. This is great.
Well, even though my heart will go on, podcast must come to an end.
I can't top that. That was beautiful and poetic.
I feel like when this podcast is over, we'll all be at the age we associate ourselves with the most when we have the best time of our life.
Bryce, do you have any other words?
I'm speechless.
Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna drop some jewels into the ocean.
Yeah. That sounds like a euphemism, but I think I'll join you.